From the ABC St. Louis studios, this is the Allman Report.
All right, so big news surrounding the entrance of Attorney General Josh Hawley into the Republican Senate race, hoping to unseat Claire McCaskill. But there is a guy who was the first out of the blocks. His name, Austin Petersen, and he's joining me now via Skype. Austin Petersen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jamie.
So your reaction to the entrance of Josh Hawley to this race, my friend?
Well, I always welcome competition. I believe in that. But I did read a poll that was dropped by Politico that showed that 72% of Missouri Republicans want somebody to challenge this guy. And I think full half of the party didn't even want him to run. And what I'm hearing from Missouri voters is pretty clear that they voted for him to be AG and they want him to stay AG. And, you know, he's climbing ladders like he said he wouldn't do. Mitch McConnell came in and said that he would make him the golden boy, and I think that he's got a lot of people in his ear that are telling him the wrong things. People like Danforth, people like McConnell. I mean, he's their guy in the race. And what really kind of irks me is that the taxpayers are on the hook for $116,000 a year for his salary. So we're paying for him to climb this ladder. I think it's an outrage, and I think Missouri deserves better.
I mean, ultimately, it's something he's going to have to address. I mean, there are individuals who I talk to every day who are concerned that they really wanted him to be Attorney General because he was good at it in terms of, you know, his taking on Hobby Lobby, all those other cases, and they wanted him in there. And then additionally, that Danforth thing is really driving a lot of people nuts because Danforth couldn't be more petulant and gratuitous in his attacks on President Trump. And clearly, I mean, I know this isn't going to be all about President Trump, but let's face it, they want to elect individuals who are going to be promoting President Trump's agenda. The one he ran on, the one he was 19 points ahead of Hillary Clinton on. And so they want somebody who's going to rock and roll on behalf of President Trump and not necessarily be tied to people who would rather have Hillary Clinton as president.
All right. Well, you know me. I'm very anti-authoritarian. I'm not the type of guy to go to D.C. and kiss the ring, especially if it's Mitch McConnell's. They're not putting any money into my campaign, that's for sure. He's got the NRSC and Mitch McConnell in his pocket. But here's the thing. I mean, the Republicans for the last 7 years campaigned on promising that when they got to power, they would overturn Obamacare. Then all of a sudden, once they got into power, they either forgot how to do it or they broke their promises. So I don't think Missouri wants to send another lawyer to Washington, D.C. who has already broken their promises. Frankly, we need somebody who is not a part of the establishment, somebody who was born, raised, educated here in the great state of Missouri and who has our best interests at heart and who will most importantly keep their promises. Because when I say that I'm going to go to Washington, D.C., cut spending, cut taxes, repeal Obamacare and get the federal government off our backs, you can take that to the bank.
Well, and Austin, there will be people who will say, and you know that will be coming from folks within the Hawley camp as well, and say, well, Austin Petersen really wasn't a Republican. He was a libertarian. In fact, he was at the top of the ticket when it came for the presidential nomination on the libertarian side. But do you think, because you weren't always on board with President Trump, which I think some people think is a good thing since you've actually come to now trust President Trump and his agenda, whereas you haven't always been on board and yet you are now, I'm not quite sure that's a flip-flop as much as you saying, you know what, I was skeptical, and there were a lot of people who were, but now are on board with his agenda.
Well, firstly, let me say that Ronald Reagan said explicitly that libertarianism is the heart and soul of conservatism. But what really makes me excited about President Trump is the fact that he's listening to the #1 most conservative voice in the Senate, Rand Paul. I mean, look what Rand Paul did. He handed Donald Trump his greatest victory since his election. And if you want more Republicans like Rand Paul, I'm the guy. And frankly, I think that if President Trump is listening to people like Paul and Lee and Cruz and others, like, then he's on the right track. That's what I want to see from the president. And the thing is, the truth is, Jamie, I'll support anybody when they're right and nobody when they're wrong. So if I disagree with the president on something, I've said so. And that's what I think that shows integrity. Because a lot of people say, well, you have to support somebody 100%. Well, are you married? I mean, do you have a wife? You don't even agree with your wife 100% on things. But you can always trust me that you will know where I stand. You may not always agree with me 100%, but I'm not going to tell you just what you want to hear just so so that I can get elected. That's not what Missouri wants. I think Missouri is a show-me state for a reason. They want somebody who's going to show them that they are principled, that they are conservative, and that they will take seriously the oath to defend, preserve, and protect the Constitution, which is what I'm all about.
Well, and there are people like Jack Danforth who think actually the Republican Party belongs to them. But as we saw in 2016, it doesn't. It belongs to the people.
Yeah, well, my dad, he's been a Missouri resident his entire life. And as soon as Danforth wrote that piece and I brought up the name Danforth, he hissed, made the sign of the devil, because the grassroots conservatives are not big fans of the people who are pushing Hawley into this race. I almost think that the attorney general didn't even want to do it. But it's like when somebody comes and offers you the ring of power, people have a hard time turning that down. They're saying, oh, gosh, yes, well, Claire is eminently beatable. But I saw a poll that came out today that shows that he's within the margin of error. There's no blowout going out here. There's a lot of people with a lot of wishful thinking. The establishment has got their fingerprints all over this guy. I'm independent. All of my money comes from the grassroots. It comes from single moms, comes from active duty military service members, and they don't have any special interests except for one special interest, and that's liberty, and that's what I'm fighting to defend.
Well, I'll tell you, if this seat's going to be taken away from Senator McCaskill, it's got to be somebody with energy, somebody with passion, and somebody who is out there every day. We have reached out to Josh Hawley for an interview on this program, and eventually I guess we'll talk to him. He has done no media that I know of, with the exception of the video that he's let out. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll try to drill down into the campaign at some point.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be the chief law enforcement officer in this state, and they were getting slapped with the Democrats for all these ethics violations, which I believe one he was cleared of. I think that they were pushed into this, that they didn't really want to do it. I wish the attorney general would stick to his campaign promises, stay attorney general of Missouri, because that we have not had a Republican Missouri attorney general for over 20 years. So what's going to happen if he wins the seat? Then will we have to have a special election? Will the governor appoint someone? This is problematic. I mean, we can have two Republicans taking national seats, taking a statewide seat, and then one taking a national seat. And I will go and defend us against the federal government. I'll get the federal government off our backs while the attorney general does his job here in the state of Missouri. And you can trust me, Jamie, take it to the bank. I will be the candidate who will defend your individual liberty, and together we're going to make Calvin Coolidge cool again.
All right, absolutely. I love that. And good luck with your campaign. We've got the website up there on the screen so everybody can get to know you better if they want to, and also help you out if they want to. So Austin Petersen, thanks so much.